Nigeria's myriads of challenges, no doubt, place a great responsibility on the shoulders of the country's incoming president, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. A lot to talk about, really, if you can, do a critical assessment of how things have been going in Nigeria, you realize that there is a lot to be settled, from economy to security, even to national orientation. Uh, True federalism, like a lot of people would say, needs to be entrenched better in the country. And all of these things put together would place a very great and enormous responsibility hanging around the neck of the next president. And this morning, we will look at some of the things that Nigerians would like to see in the coming dispensation under the watch of Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Come May 29th, the new president, that's the president-elect, will be inaugurated. A new government will come into place, and of course, Nigerians are hopeful that this would mean the beginning of a new dawn for Nigeria. My name is Olabisi Olani Oluwasegun, and I welcome you on this week's edition of Public Square. This is a program that talks about topical issues from the standpoint of the people. And with me in the studio this morning, I have Mr. Johnson Alabi, who is a public affairs analyst, is here joining us to talk about some of these things this morning. Good to have you, Mr. Alabi.
Thank you very much.
I also have my very good brother, Batola Jonathan, right here with us. He's also a public affairs analyst. Thank you for coming.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Okay, quickly, let's talk about some of the things Nigerians would expect. Definitely, without having to say much about the state of Nigeria's affairs right now. I'm sure that if you put together 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Nigerians, there might be some sort of similarity in what they might expect from the new government. Let's start with Jonathan. What do you think should be on the front burner for the next president?
Yeah, thank you. Good morning, dear listeners. And for me, I think the president-elect, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, is coming at this period where Nigeria need a leader that will unite the nation, that will pull Nigeria through from being a failed state, as referred to by many public commentators, someone that will, heal the land and ensure that we come stronger economically. So for me, the president have no much time for honeymoon to play around or to reward political party machineries with public offices. So for me, it is something that I expect the president-elect to hit the ground running from day one. Hitting the ground running in the sense that a tree do not make a forest. The kind of people he's going to work with, people that we head, very important appointment, political offices, and especially offices like finance, like security. The economic team of this president must be one that is strong, that can actually help us, to ensure that there is economic improvement within the first 100 days in office. We need a lot of decisions that have been made by this present administration to be reversed. And the resources recorded by this administration also need to be improved upon. Consolidated upon immediately. And, the president is coming on board on a clean state. He has not been adjudged as the president in any capacity. But he's coming at this period where Nigerians are giving him the benefit of doubt. They want to see what he's going to do, especially in his first day in office, the way he will come up with his own team. And in this era, we need a team, that will be very sound, a team that of competent people with the required capacity, to reposition this country economically. So we don't want more of a juicy political appointment, throwing appointment this time, because Nigeria do not have enough resources anymore to throw around. And this is coming on board at a point where the petrol subsidy will be removed. So the effect of removing the fuel subsidy on Nigerians will not be something that Nigerians will enjoy. So we need a president this time around, that we work to ensure that Nigerians are getting the dividends of democracy. If this present government have been spending 400 billion naira monthly on fuel subsidy, when it is removed, this 400 billion naira in actual sense, we want to see where the president-elect, we put these resources to ensure that Nigerians are living better.
All right, that's from Obatola Jonathan. Well, let's quickly have some sort of let's take a look into some of the electioneering campaign slogans of Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu at that time, when a lot of people were coming on board to speak for him and to campaign for him, to sell his candidature. A lot of them would say that he has this ability to identify talents, bring them together, and then ensure that all resources are brought together to ensure that Nigeria or the country or whatever team is heading, gives the best possible. Now, with this expectation in place, Nigerians already believe that Asiwaju Bola Tinubu has what it takes to identify talent and to bring them together. Do you think that this will play out in, putting together his cabinet, his team, come, May 29, probably after he's been inaugurated, Mr. Johnson Alabi?
Well, thank you very much. Our president-elect, person of Bola Ahmed Tinubu, has been a senator, has been governor of Lagos State for 8 years. And these 8 years, I would say, was a very remarkable one in the history of Lagos State. It was the first time of its kind where and when allocation to that state was ceased. And immediately he came on board in Lagos State, he did a blueprint in Lagos State. And that blueprint is what is in existence up to date. And you see the way the Lagos State have progressively moved from then till now. You will know that this man has capacity. And moving from the era of Tinubu to the era of Fashola to the era of Ambode, and till now, you see that the progress recorded by Lagos State is just progressive. And based on that, based on his action then and until now, we can say that this man has capacity to identify leaders. And not only that, you discover that most of the people that have been listed on the record of Lagos State in the National Assembly are people of high intelligence, people of high integrity. You see the likes of Gbajabiamila and all the people coming on board from Lagos State. So this man had done it in the state level, and that is why we are confident in him that he's going to replicate it in Nigeria as a whole. What we, just like my brother rightly said, well, I know it's not going to be a tea party for the president-elect, because things have gone really bad in this nation economically. And based on that, going forward from that stance is not going to be a tea party. And so that's why we expect that the president will kick the ground running immediately. This is not going to be as usual as it used to be, where president will come in and 1 year after is unable to form his cabinet. It's not going to be. In the first few days of his coming on board as the president of Nigeria, he's going to form his cabinet. He's going to make some critical and key appointments of people, of a team that's going to help him succeed in the coming years ahead of him. And I want to tell you, the issue of subsidy is not going to be a very easy thing at this moment, coupled with the fact that Nigerians have been groaning from the hardship of cash crunch and all the things, fuel scarcity and all the things that have been happening. So it's not going to be so easy to remove. And so when he's coming on board, we expect him to begin to make alternatives of how Nigeria will cushion the effect of the economic crisis we are already in. That is what we expect from our president.
Okay, now let's speak to specific issues. I already mentioned that there are a lot of sectors in the country that need serious overhauling, from economy to education to security, every other sector that you can think about. But let us talk about the area of youth inclusion. You would realize and agree with me that this election was one of the most assertive in the sense that the young population made a statement. There was a strong message that was sent across to the political class in this election, and that is to say that the youths are not to be undermined. The importance of the young population, Nigerians' young population, should not be undermined. Now, let's look critically into some of the things that Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu said at the Chatham House during the campaign period when he was there to answer for media briefing, so to speak. The president-elect said that youths, in his words now, youths are the greatest asset of tomorrow. We will, there would be a part of an all-inclusive government, and he even went ahead to cite the Lagos State Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu as an example, as one of the young people he has been able to bring from nothing to something. And it says the education system would also change. We would overhaul it and tinker with some areas with the philosophy that no one would be left behind. Now, let's start with Obatala Jonathan, in the area of youth inclusion. Do you think that, given the antecedents of the president-elect as a proper politician who is grounded in the things revolving around the politics and all that concerns it, do you think that he would have enough room for the youth in his government? Like you rightly mentioned, and I think that's a very important point. There are a lot of political allies of the president-elect who are right now warming up for one appointment or the other. I mean, as can we call that a reward now? I don't know what to call it, but as a reward for their loyalty, so to speak. Now, do you think that this would make room for the youths in his government?
Yeah, the expectation from Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu is huge, and for the fact that when you compare Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu and the incumbent president we have now, they are two different entities. The wife of the incumbent president, the First Lady Aisha Buhari, at a point said the president do not know 45 out of the 50 persons that he appointed to political office. So that is a very huge statement coming from the wife. Unlike Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, like you've rightly said, who is grounded politically, that know almost everybody in the arena. So it is expected. And from what he has done, his track record that everybody keep alluding to, that he's picking round pegs in round holes. So it is expected that this time around, we want to see him bringing competent people to public office. And when it comes to the youth engagement, the kind of engagement young people need this time around, thank God for the president-elect. He was able to identify that. And he said during his acceptance speech, after he won the office of the president, he said the young people have spoken loud and clear and that he heard them. That is when he reiterated the fact that he's going to ensure that there's credit facility for young undergraduates so that nobody will be left behind, so that the 4 years course will be 4 years course. There's not going to be ASU strike and others. But when it comes to small and medium scale enterprise, young people that are involved in entrepreneurs, this cash crunch has killed a lot of small scale businesses, So young people will be looking forward to the president making critical economic decisions, that will make life easier for the young people. The cash crunch presently affects the young people the most, because the young people, the population of Nigeria is a very young population that have more young people, whereby young people cover over 60% of the total population of this country. So any economic decision that is made in this country will affect the young people the most. And when it comes to forming the cabinet of this presidency, what will be good for this country is to have more young people at the helms of affairs, young people that young people also can relate with. One of the key issues in this present administration of President Muhammadu Buhari is the fact that the president is not updated. I'm sorry to say, updated in the sense that even the way he communicates and relates with the young people, there's a kind of disconnect, huge disconnect from the office of the president and the office of the citizens. So young people, as we are hoping for new president in person of Ashwaji Bola Ahmed Tinubu, there's need for a great, huge connection between the citizens, the office of the citizens, and the office of the president. So young people need to be communicated to. If you want to take any economic decision or any policy that will affect, the citizens, you communicate properly. That is one of those things that we've not seen in the 8 years of President Muhammadu Buhari.
Okay.
So there's disconnect, and we need a leader that will bring back that connection from the leader and the led.
Okay, now according to Jonathan, there is a disconnect between the political class, now between the president and the youth. How do you think the incoming president could bridge that gap, Mr. Johnson Olavi?
Well, one of the ways he could bridge the gap that have been, he mentioned actually, the kind of disconnect that had happened, that had existed between the president and the people. And when we say the people now, largely, like he rightly said, 60% of those people are made up of the youth. So one would expect that the inclusion of the youth in his cabinet will make the day. Actually, including the youth in his.
What critical areas of his cabinet are you looking to see young people occupy?
Well, we have, especially in the area of education, because it looks like the people who are mounted the seat or power in the education sector are people who probably went to school those days and looks like they are now detached from realities of today. So, especially in that Ministry of Education should be handled by the youth, where we need vigor, where we need strength, where we need intelligence. Yes. So we just have to double power in the area of education, and more also, we discover that the vibrality we expect in the economy of this nation should come also from the youth. There are lots of our youth that are actually doing very well in the area of economy. People who are well grounded in financial matters, people who know how to juxtapose, who know how to make their to get their ways through in the area of taking economic decision. Because one of the problems we have today in Nigeria is economic crisis, and that area had to be really dealt with. I used to say oftentimes that the way and manner in which this country is being run is not you just make some money, you make some money from the crude oil and you just pour the money, you say you are building infrastructure here. I want to believe more on industrialization, using a backward integration to fund the economy. And when you industrialize this state, this nation, you discover that there will be a lot of youth involvement, because these people you see taking decisions here and there, a lot of them are outdated. You even discover something happened during the era of OBJ, when the then FCT minister, El-Rufai, will put his laptop, and Dora Akinyuli will put his laptop, and you see the likes of Zekwesili will put his laptop, and they will tell some other people who come and say, Mr. President, this thing cannot work. Obasanjo will tell them, don't worry, these people are bringing this information from the computer. he knew that the computer was bringing out some information, even though some people were keying the information into the system. But he didn't really know the operations of the computer himself. So this is an age of technology, and so we need the youth in the area of technology. Industrialization will bring in the youth to settle a whole lot of issues that these outdated old men cannot. You discover that in the cabinet of incumbent president, you discover that I doubt, apart from Festus Keyamo, I doubt if there is any other person who is of a young age there. You see Baba of 75, you see Baba of 80, see the likes of the Minister of Information, Lai Mohammed, see the likes of the Minister of Agriculture, then see the Present Minister of Agriculture, see all of them, these outdated people who are no longer in touch with the realities of today. So we expect that in this incoming administration, we expect to see the president bridging the gap between the youth, the people, and the presidency. A lot of them, like our president now, having got into the office, in fact, a lot of weeks we were into fuel crisis and there was no information. We couldn't even know what exactly was the problem. We couldn't, nobody came to talk to us. Even this cash crunch we are having here and there, we didn't know what was the basis of it. So now we expect this government to involve a lot of youth who are intellectually groomed to take up situation where we can say that the nation is moving forward.
Talking about the cash crunch, the CBN governor has made a promise to Nigerians that he would pump old naira notes into the economy. The banks will get the old naira notes, according to him. We only hope that it would make good his promise. But now let's talk about the area of technological advancement for the benefit of the youths. The president-elect said at some point that he would create technological hubs. Digital skills will be made accessible for these young people, and that's those. It was specific. I remember at that time when he was in Cross River, where he was in Rivers or in Cross River, where he said that the young people who are into internet fraud will be brought together, and then their energy will be rechanneled into making chips, and that got a lot of people by surprise. I thought, I didn't see that coming. They didn't expect the president-elect to know that much about technology. Well, now, looking at the way things are presently, with the mistrust that a lot of young people have against the government, do you think that the readiness will be there? Are the young people ready to cooperate with government to leverage some of these opportunities in order to better their own lives and, of course, the nation at large? Batola Jonathan, you are a young person. Do you think the youth are ready for this?
Yes, I'm a young person. The young people also want to see things work. They want a Nigeria where governance works for the people, for the young people. So what we build the trust is delivery of dividends of democracy. When, for instance, this election, you know that huge population of the young people, not even the young people now, the whole of the, actually you couldn't get 50% of the total vote cast. So it was to tell you that more than half of this country do not want him as a president. So in regaining the trust of the people, including the young people now, is delivering on those promises he made. When he's doing something fantastic, Nigerians they will know immediately, and they will turn to him to support him, even when the people is against him, or some political parties that is opposing him. When they are against him, it is the people now that will be speaking for him and fighting for him. What Nigerians need is hope from their leaders. When we are passing through any stage in our national life, if we are able to communicate effectively to the people that this is where we are, this is our plan to get out of this current quagmire, and this is where we want to position you, and giving them timeline in 60 days, in 40 days, in 3 weeks, this is what we want to achieve, and this is what we've achieved, effective communication. And when you are talking about bringing young people to bear in this government, I do not think, and I'm also expecting the president-elect, to restructure the cabinet system.
How?
Yes, when this current one of having Minister of Education, Minister of Communication, if you look at the campaign council of Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, it is something that is unusual. It is not something that, when they have different sectors, different wings
Yeah.
that work for the campaign council, unlike what they used to have in the political arena. All those political parties, they just bring out names of people and say they are in the campaign council, but under
Not
the
properly
APC,
structured.
it was properly structured under the APC. The way it was structured, if you study it very well. So coming to government now, that is the way we expect that. Don't just have Minister of Education. You can have Minister of Education, have another Minister for Science and Technology. We may not manage together. The Minister of Education and Science and Technology, let them do different things. You can have Ministry of Minister of, Attorney General of the Federation, different from the Commissioner or Minister for Justice. We are expecting innovation, things differently. And Ashwaju is someone that, with his track record, someone that have been thinking out of the box previously. So going into this new office, the expectation is high. We want innovative offices that will also encourage innovation, offices that will ensure that things are not done the way it was done previously. Because if we want to run it the way it was done or it was run previously, we will keep getting the same results. So we expect this time around that Ashwaju will bring in people and give them, their deliverables, that within this timeline you want to deliver on this is what we want to get. And communication, especially also to the young people. When we have young people at the ends of our fear, most of the young people are on the social media. How can we use the technology to communicate to the people more and deliver on our promises? And when we are delivering, let the people know what we are doing part time. Let them see. And that is how to build trust and to regain the trust of the young people. When governance is working, the people will know. It is something that is obvious. We know now that the government is not working, that governance is not working for us, because we cannot even access our cash. Because before I get to this place, I'm already seeing people on the queue, to access fuel. We know when governance is working and working well for the people. So people can see it, we can feel it, we can sense it, we can touch it. The market women need not to be told that this government is good. When they feel it, they will express it to the people that, this government is extremely different from what we used to have. So it is not enough also to construct road for the people or to say you want to do this, you want to do that. Those are basic things that providing social amenities, any leader could do that. Any idiot also can do that, when you have the fund, But the ability, to take decisions that will benefit the people in the long run, the ability to restore hope to the people, to unite the nation. It is something that Nigerians we appreciate more. Not just when you say, yes, we expect you to provide social amenities. But beyond providing social amenities, Nigerians especially, the disconnect is the gap is huge. So Nigerians need a father, they need a leader, they need a friend, they need someone that will be there regardless of your social status, someone that will make you feel, happy about being a Nigerian. So a lot is expected, and we are expecting Ashwaju. We know the journey is not going to be something easy because of tough decisions that will be expected. And when this administration is expected to widen the tax net, young people must be included in that aspect. Because when you want to widen the tax net, like what Akeredolu is doing in Ondo State, before now, the level of internal IGR that was generated, it has expanded, because they widened the tax net. It is something that is expected in this new administration of Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Expand the wide.
You're saying that probably because you are in the know of how things are being run. especially when it comes to the economics of any nation. Do you think the masses, the ordinary people, would accept or would receive the news of an expansion in the tax net, like you put it, in the event that this is? I'm not saying that is one of the policies of the incoming. I'm just saying that if that is supposed to be in place, do you think there would be a positive public perception about it?
Widening the tax net does not necessarily mean making people paying through their nose. You know, there are a lot of things that should be charged that are not charged presently, that the government is not seeing, or even the government see it and they overlooked it. Those things should be charged. They should be charged. If you are hanging your
Now
microphone or speaker at the head,
let's take Lagos State as a good example. Few days to the election, to the gubernatorial election in Lagos State, so we saw a very funny. I say it as funny. They went viral where staff of LASMA were seen singing in parables. Say, "Where origin, Laja." I don't know if you saw
yeah,
that
I saw
video.
it. I saw it.
Okay, now, public perception about the checks that were put in place to ensure that there is sanity on the roads of Lagos were perceived by the public as anti-people. And in real sense, one would say that some of these things that we are alien to, or that we seem to be alien to, or in this country, are things that Nigerians do joyfully when they go outside the country. How do we marry this? Are Nigerians really ready for the change they even want to see?
See, last man in Lagos are delivering on their mandate. You can't have an organized city with disorganized people. You can't just cross the road. You cannot abuse the road and you expect not to be charged.
But that
like
almost,
like you've said, Nigerians.
the services of LASMA almost cost Babajide Sanwo-Olu his re-election.
Yes, for the last man, we have some bad eggs among them, definitely, like we have in other sectors. But what last man is doing in Lagos, for me, they have my 100% support. All of us want to point to Lagos that go to Lagos, things are working. Things will not work naturally because of the culture of our people in this place. Someone want to ask me, I have a friend in the United States, and he asked me that, Jonathan, if I'm a federal road safety officer and I saw your wife, with a little kid in the front of the car driving, and I stopped him to charge him properly according to the law. In this country, when my wife get home and reported my friend, I will be angry. It is the culture of our people. But when they travel to the United States, regardless of your relationship, even if it's your father or it's your brother or it's your uncle, you will be charged. Those are organized countries, organized ways. So the culture of our people is another thing that needs to be checked. The prevailing societal culture is killing an organized society. So if we want to be organized, we need to cooperate with security agencies, we need to cooperate with Federal Road Safety, LASMA, and other agencies that are charged to do their work, to do it and do it effectively, so that they can deliver on their own mandate too.
Now, talking about the issue of national orientation, during the interview the president-elect had with the anchor at NESG, that's the National Economic Summit Group, if I'm not mistaken, right? He was trying to educate the people at that event that there is the need for Nigerians to have a reorientation. There should be a paradigm shift in the way Nigerians think for any meaningful development to be achieved. Now, making some tough economic decisions, policies of government could mean that we would have to do away with certain things. We would have to, stand in the gap so that these things would come through and would have the needed result, required result that we want to see. Don't you think that Nigerians should also be ready as well to support government, regardless of whether or not it might cost us some comfort, in the meantime?
Yes, very well. I think Nigerians should really support the government to move the nation forward. I have said it in process of a discussion with my friends or colleagues that what we need in Nigeria today is a national reorientation of the people. I think the culture of the Nigerian people averagely has gone terribly bad. The orientation, the thinking faculty of every Nigerian has already gone very bad. It wasn't like this in those days. In the 80s, people knew certain things and would do certain things. Even in the culture, for instance, in the culture of a Yoruba man, when as a little boy growing up those days, when you are coming, probably climbing the stairs, and you see an elderly person coming down from the stairs, you have to step back to allow that person pass. If you see an old woman standing up while you are seated, you simply get up and ask her to sit down. This was part of the culture of our of the Yoruba
Moral
people.
values, yeah.
Our moral values. Today, you see that the whole thing have gone terribly bad. And I want to let you know that one thing that people will resist and that is very essential and very sacrosanct is change. Change is not always very acceptable to the people. But irrespective of that fact, we must learn to accept, change in everything that we do. I want to key into that, to the fact that our tax net should be expanded as a nation. Like he said, it doesn't necessarily mean that the moment you expand the tax net, then the tax burden will shift to the people. No. A lot of time, when the government increases the tax net, you discover that the percentage of taxation becomes lower because more people now pay that amount that they ought to pay. Each time I go around Akure here, I see a lot of things happen. And I say that this our government is not doing enough. Sincerely, they are not doing enough. If you go to Shasha Market now, you see that the trailers are blocked the side of the road. What stops the government from going into that place, acquire land, and acquire parking space for trailer? If you park by the roadside, you are charged so and so amount. You discover that the tax net of the state will increase.
Are you aware that some section of the society will see that as anti-people?
Yes, they will see it as anti-people. You know, the reason why a lot of people resist this kind of move is that if, as a government, you receive all these things from the people and there's nothing to show for it, then people will revolt. But the moment you make it known that the revenue we are getting from so source, this is what we are doing with it. Okay, for instance, in Lagos State, see where they built toll gate, people are paying at the toll gate because the road, if you see the Lekki Ekpe road before, if you see what it used to be nightmare. But when the road was constructed and toll gate matter, people are paying willingly and they are getting, and Lagos is smiling while the people also are smiling on their upper. So the effect of taxation should, that I think that people should accept is seeing what they are paying for. A lot of times, especially towards weekend like this, if you ply that road I'm telling you about, you can be there for 2 hours because of traffic. These people just park anyhow and they just get away with it. I see a lot of places, accidents that happen around town where people ram into trailers are so many within this state. But same is not so in Lagos. Because once your truck gets bad, you have to contact the people in charge to come and help you tow it away. If you don't do so and they come to see you there's going to be penalty for it. So these are some of the things that we think that the government should do. And when they begin to do it and you see a lot of government where they take much from the people and they do less for those same people.
In fact, it was so funny that Lagos State Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu was forced to reverse the confiscation of some vehicles, impounding of some vehicles, because that was one of the issues that some Lagosians were using to campaign against him at that time. Well, that is not to say that some policies of government targeted at ensuring sanity especially in urban centers, should be perceived by the public as anti-people, as long as the results are seen, like you
As,
said,
yes,
then cooperation is all we need to
yes.
give to government. Now, let's talk about this issue of education loan that the president-elect Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu has always talked about. He said upon the inauguration of his government is going to ensure that education loan is put in place for youths to easily access for the funding, easy funding of their education. Now, given the state of the country's economy right now, the revenue base of the country's economy right now, do you think this would be easy for the president-elect to achieve, Jonathan?
Yeah, I think with adequate planning, this is something that is achievable, especially when the political will is there, you know. And actually, has repeatedly said that at, I think, in every of his rally, you know, he alludes to the fact that the young people need to access loan for their education. But it is not only the ability to pay the school fees, you know, that is disrupting young people the opportunity to do 4 years course for 4 years course or in 4 years, you know. But on the side of the federal government too, the demands of ASU, you know, that is expected to improve the educational system in this country is also required to be met. So when the government is deliberate about meeting those requirements, then ASU, COASU, or all other agencies or the unions, you know, we have no reason to go to strike. And when they are on strike, you know, it will definitely affect the academic calendar of that year. So, but for the loan, you know, provision of those soft loan for young people, I think it is important. It is going to reduce the burden also on the parent. So this fuel subsidy remover, you know, it is, for me, I think the president will target it to welfareism, you know, social welfare for the people. And when you talk of education loan, those are the areas for the youth to access. So when a legitimate student is in pursuit of his degree, you know, he won't be denied that opportunity because of the fact that he cannot pay, you know. So, and when they graduated, this is something that is working in other countries. When they graduated, there's going to be a plan to make those payments also, you know,
Easy.
to make it easy for them so that they refund the federal government. So I think actually also we have a new agency in place that will
To be in
support
charge of
that will
that.
support the Ministry of Education to be in charge of this. So those are the things that we are expecting. Not that the same ministries that have been in place that are not delivering, we also take these new responsibilities. So we need new agencies, you know,
Well,
that will take some responsibilities.
expanding his cabinet and um, some bringing in new people and everything. Don't you think that would increase the cost of governance that we want to badly shed?
I don't think so. Expanding the agencies, you know, different agencies will have their own responsibilities and terms of reference cut out for them, you know, until the Ondo State IRS
That would mean more.
begin.
That would mean more budget estimates for new agencies.
No, it is not. Look at until Ondo. This is a good example for us. It's here in Akure. The Ondo State Internal Revenue Service is one of the agencies of the government under this present administration that is delivering effectively. So until the government was deliberate about making that place run like a private sector, that is when they continue to deliver on their promises. When you see a staff of that place now, you'll be happy. They don't look like the normal civil servants, you know. Apologies to the civil servants. So, but when you get to that place, you will know that this is an environment where things are working. So that is what is
How do
expected.
civil servants look?
I'm sorry to use that word, but over time, you know, we've seen that most of them are just there doing nothing, you know, and the message they send to people. But when you go to private sectors like the banks, you see the way bankers relate with customers, you know the level of their service delivery. It is the
Okay.
same thing applicable in Ondo State Internal Revenue Service.
Okay. Now, okay.
Sorry, more to that. You see, this is the first time we are having we are going to have a president who is
prepared for the job.
who is a politician, thoroughbred politician, and a businessman of repute. You know, running government is more or less like running a business. Now, if the government has to expand its cabinet to achieve more results, why not? Now, you will now look at it in the way that probably you have been spending 10,000 naira to run the government before. And now, if you add 3,000 naira to make it 13,000, when you are running at 10,000 naira, you are getting 20,000 naira result. Now, when you add 3,000 naira, you begin to get 50,000 naira result. Then, why not expand so that you can achieve more? And I want to tell you that Shiwaju that we know is going to work out this thing. But the area that I think will still need to be looked into is this issue of unemployment in Nigeria. You know, in nations like in Canada, in US, you see that people have access to loan. Students have access to loan, student loan. And when they have this loan, and the moment they finish their education, they just go somewhere and they are able to work out and pay back whatever loan they have acquired. But if you give a loan to students who are not going to get a job after 10, 15 years, how does the government get back their loan, their money? And if they don't get back that money, how do they give to others? So that area has to be looked into, and that brings you to that extent where I say industrialization will help this country to drive the economy. And that's not going to be the only thing. You know, there are lots of issues that we have. Currently today, we have issue of power.
That's it.
Is a major factor in determining whether economy will run or otherwise. Productivity is dependent on power. And I told somebody, I said, you know, political will and critical step must be taken in the area of power to be able to achieve power. When I see people talking, we have light today, it's more than you having light for 8 hours or having light for 18 hours in some days, and another day you have zero power. So these are the areas that I'm very sure that our incoming president is going to look at critically. He has also said it, that in the next few years, we are going to say goodbye to power outages in Nigeria. And to do that, it's not going to be a tea party. It's not going to be a cheap thing. You see, he was talking about civil servants earlier on. The problem we have, even as a nation today, runs up here from the civil service. There are a lot of bureaucracies you see in the civil service that is making the system ungovernable, that is circumventing the will of the government in power. And I tell you, maybe we are not going to say it on the radio here. If some of us who are well grounded in this area, especially in the area of power, we will give our necessary advice at the appointed time.
Okay, now, just very recently, about 3-4 days ago, a constitutional amendment was signed into law, and this will allow the 36 states of the country to generate and even transmit and distribute electricity in regions covered by the national grid.
Yeah.
Do you see this solving the power problem Nigeria has?
Well, our problem majorly in Nigeria is not that of power generation, but the problem we have majorly is that of transmission. Transmission has been our problem. Before the exit of Goodluck Jonathan from power, he awarded a contract of, they call it super high grid, that's 760 kV line from Port Harcourt down to Lagos. That project was halted by this incumbent government. It was halted. Now the problem we have is that our transmission lines are obsolete and they cannot carry all the things we are generating. I tell you, as of today, the power generation of Nigeria is close to 20,000 megawatts. That is the deliverable power generation that we have. But if you put more than 5,000 megawatts on the national grid, it's going to drop. And when it drops, you require a lot of time to excite it, to bring it up again. This is the problem we are having. If we begin to generate 5,000 megawatts for some time, and you just suddenly, one stupid man in Warri or sapele there just breaks the power line because we are dependent on gas. If it just breaks it, it is the same line, that power line that is powering down through Kogi, Geregu power plant, that is powering this Omotosho 1, Omotosho 2, and going to Papalanto in Ogun State is the same line that is going to Egbe.
Now, Mr. Johnson, because of our time, these are existing problems you're identifying.
Yes.
The question is, now that government has devolved the power and has given, states the power to generate, transmit, and even distribute their, will this solve the power problem?
I don't, well, it should. It should, but it's not going to be an easy task to come by. One, there has to be a relationship between the state and the transmission company of Nigeria, which is not always an easy thing to come by, except if the state is key on wanting to have its own transmission infrastructures. If it does, fine. But if not, if it's still going through the existing transmission line, there are still going to be problems. So, except if the federal government will now say goodbye to the old infrastructure, this transmission infrastructure that was built in 1979. If they now say goodbye to it and they have a new one, they have the network here and there. It's just to be committed to it and complete the project that is the problem. If we do that today, I can assure you, if we put 20,000 megawatts on the grid, Nigerians will laugh. Nigerians will smile.
Well, what do you think, this is your forte, what do you think is impeding the purchase of new infrastructure generally? It's
a political will. And I want to tell you, I'm not going to mention them on the radio here. One of the top management staff of TCN has a generator assembly plant here in Nigeria. And you want to crump his business. You want to stop his business.
Okay.
I just want to add that in the when you mention political will, I think I support that also. And the political will is the deliberate effort of government, to build the infrastructure needed for power in the state. In Ondo State Budget Office, the Ministry of Economic Planning and Budget, previous years, the government have been budgeting less than 200 million in the Ministry of Energy here. But under this present government, where we have a serious commissioner for energy, mines, and mineral resources, Engineer Razakobi, I think their budget for 2023 is a bit above or close to 1 billion. I don't get the figure.
That is what
the government is doing deliberately this time around to build the infrastructure.
That is what happens when you have round pegs and round holes. This issue of power is a whole topic for another day, and I'm looking forward to bringing Mr. Johnson Alabi back to help us talk about this, because you're a professional in that sector. All right, this is how far we'll be able to go on the show today. I want to thank you very, very much for coming, Obatola Jonathan. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having us.
And Mr. Johnson Alabi, it's good to have you on the show this morning.
Thank you very much.
All right, this is the size of Public Square today. Next week, Thursday, we will be back. My name is Olabisi Olaniyi Oluwasegun. Good morning.